This is the last webinar of the Deutschlandforum 2020 series, which is organized by the German-Slovene Chamber of Commerce and the Industry, AHK Slovenian, in cooperation with the SPIRIT Slovenia Public Agency. It's my great pleasure to warmly welcome today's guests, Mr. Olaf Holzgrefe, Head of International and Affairs of the Association for Supply Chain Management, Procurement and Logistics, BME, Mr. Martin Knapp, Chairman of the Board at the German-Serbian Chamber of Commerce, AHK Serbian, and our very own Ms. Gertrud Rantzen, Chairwoman of the Board at the AHK Slovenian. Warmest regards and many thanks also to our dearest colleagues from AHK Croatian, AHK North Macedonian, and AHK Serbian who shared the invitation to the webinar within their business communities. And again, welcome you, dear participants who are today with us linking to this webinar from so many wonderful countries. As we strive to bring the webinar topics as closely as possible to your needs, we will send you afterwards a short survey. We kindly ask you to fill it out as we will continue with the webinars, and I believe that based on your valuable feedback, we'll be able to improve them further. I'm also kindly informing you that this webinar will be recorded and published within the communication platform of the AHK Slovenian. And now, dear participants, before we start, I would like to encourage you also to be active and to ask the questions. You are kindly invited to write your burning issue via chat option, and then I will read them at the end of every webinar's part. As we already announced, first we will have a lecture and then the discussion. This is from my side, and now Ms. Gertrud Rantzen will share her welcoming thoughts. Ms. Rantzen, please.
Yes, hello, good morning. A very warm welcome also from my side to our webinar. I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Olaf Holzgrefe. We have already a long, good cooperation regarding B2B meetings between German procurers and our regional exporters to Germany. I'm very especially happy that we have my dear colleague from Serbia, from AHK Serbia here, Mr. Martin Knapp. Hi, Martin. We already thought, okay, it's now I think the first time that we do something together, and I'm very pleased that we can really start with this kind of cooperation. Yeah. The AHK Slovenia is a part of a worldwide network of German chambers abroad, with over 140 offices and in the 90 countries. As a bilateral chambers, we are supporting not only the German companies towards our countries, but we are also supporting our local members doing business specialized in Germany. So our webinar has the aim to boost this export after the COVID-19 pandemic, and to boost really the new business relation, and to exchange also a little bit our experience from three different countries, from Germany on the one hand, from Serbia on the other side, and from Slovenia. So I wish you a successful webinar. And we will be very happy if you raise your hand if you want to say something to that, or to write your comments on certain topics. Thank you very much.
Liebe Frau Rantzen, vielen Dank. Thank you very much. Dear participants, maybe just kind request for those who are participants and are not the guests, please just switch off your camera so that we will only see our guests. Yeah, now I'm kindly inviting Mr. Olaf Holzgrefe, Head of International and Affairs at the BME, to share his lecture on the BME COVID survey, Western Balkans Initiative, and Subcontracting Developments 2020. Mr. Holzgrefe, willkommen und ja, bitte. And switch on your microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Rolsch, Ms. Rantzen. Hello, Mr. Knapp from Serbia. I'm very happy. I'm trying now to share my lecture. I hope everybody can see it. I try to make it very short, though, that we can discuss a little bit longer about the current situation regarding COVID and the crisis which are behind us and before us. I will make a short overview about the BME, about a minute, then talk about a survey we done since end of March to guide and to watch a little bit what's going on in the supply chains while the COVID-19 crisis. Most of you may know the BME. We have a long partnership with chambers of the Western Balkans and Slovenia, Croatia, and all the other AHK network worldwide. Since 2015, we're organizing together with AHK Serbia, Slovenia, Croatia, North Macedonia and the others, Bosnia and Herzegovina, the BME Ministry and AHK Purchase Initiative Western Balkans, which is a very successful project since now 6 years. The BME itself is one of the largest associations in Europe, the largest in the EU, with more than 9,750 members. We're organizing roughly 900 events. The largest is the BME Symposium. We have 5 branches and are one of the strongest facilitator of education and trainings in the area of procurement and supply chain in Germany in cooperation with the German Chamber and other partners. So our focus is making qualification, sharing know-how, having services like the B2B services Ms. Rantzen mentioned, or we organize network events like congresses, forums, and we try to support our young people, not only in Germany, all over Europe, to getting better access to the procurement community. This is a BME Symposium, which will take place this year between 11th and 13th November, but this year, due to the COVID situation, as a digital week. There will be information available beginning of July regarding the program and the overall topics. We have quite good speakers already on board, so it will be a little bit a different symposium than the last year's, but I think we can have a good community and network building event also on the digital format. Also, we are doing a lot of other events. Beginning this year, we're working together since beginning this year. We're working also together with the European Union in the area of innovation. We are the provider of the Competence Center of Innovation Procurement in Germany, and also my team is leader of the Procure to Innovate platform in the European Union, where we bring together innovative procurers on the public sector. So this is just roughly what the BME is doing. You see a little bit of overview what we are doing since the last couple of months. We are asking our community. The BME has also roughly 30 so-called expert councils in different areas like supply chain, global sourcing, supplier management, but also in logistics, risk management, and all the others. And then we ask them, how is the situation going on in the COVID crisis? And this is just an overview about the participants. So you see the main people are buying in Europe or in EU and in Germany. And we have maybe the most of them are small and medium-sized enterprise, half, and the other are global. The thing is, we cut down a little bit the small and medium-sized enterprise size to make it a little bit comparable to other surveys. Normally in Germany, we're calling small and medium-sized enterprises or medium-sized enterprises in our association between 1,000 and 10,000 employees, which are sometimes also a big company. We ask them at the beginning, at the first, you see on the left side and on the screen on 1st of April, how deep is the impact of this this crisis. And the light green, I see there is the agenda is a little bit missing. So the green, the white color is that there is no impact. So 15% at the beginning of the survey told us that there is no impact of the crisis. 35 have a light impact at the beginning. 27 a little bit stronger impact. 19% and 4% have a heavy impact. And at the end of the day, in the middle of May, you see that it is a little bit different picture, and now nearly everybody has an impact during the crisis. And what I have to say, it's an overall, we asking, first of all, it's not an industrial survey, we asking the procurers regarding their work. So it's nothing, we don't ask for sales or activities or overall company situation. It's just in the procurement and supply chain. And then you see nearly everybody have an impact. And also, you know, if you are in procurement yourself or in supply chain, that even if you have a light impact, it could be having a really strong problem if there is no delivery. So you see the crisis is going smoothly into the companies, and we also see that the news thing of this crisis is that the crisis run over the whole planet. So it started in China, then it comes very silent to Italy, then it grows in Europe, and now maybe we can say that the first wave we have managed in Europe with a lot of problems and a lot of dead people. So, and you see that in other areas of the world, we have now bigger problems like Brazil, United States, or what I heard by yesterday in Russia. And also we have to take careful if there is not a second wave. Maybe you heard the news from Beijing, China, that there is maybe another problem coming up, but they have under control. Also, the duration at the beginning, the people were very optimistic. 40% they 1 to 3 months. 4% 1 to 3 months. 40% 3 to 6 months. In May, nobody talking about 1 to 3 months anymore, and we see that we can say that 75% think that the crisis will last and until 2021. But we see a little bit more optimism that maybe the strongest impact of the crisis is maybe behind us. We also ask people, what type of effects do you have in the different periods of the crisis, starting with end of March, now ending up with the beginning of June. And you see that the production problems were not the biggest problem. It was the delays in delivery. And the major thing I want to, or the outcome of the discussion with our procurers and our expert council was that transparency was the major problem, or is still the major problem in the supply chain. So you're not sure if a delay ends up in a disrupting or even in a non-delivery. So this was, and the people were really in a strained, there was really a stress test for all the supply chains, even to get the maximum of knowledge, even if there is a delay, or if the delay leads to a failure of delivery. And this was, and this is still a problem, and maybe is one of the major takeaways for you as a company in Slovenia or all over Western Balkans. Then if you can serve transparency to your customer due to your own situation in the area of delivery or failure, it helps extremely to get reliability into your business relationship. Bankruptcy is not the problem at the moment. I have to say that even in our survey, it's a little bit surprising, because we have another question at the end of the survey where we're asking for bankruptcy, but the people in this time have no problems with bankruptcy, but they see this this problem at the rising at the horizon, because in Germany we changed internally a little bit the structure of how to make bankruptcy for public, and this new relation, or the regulation, will end at end of September, but we have the same problems in all over Europe: Italy, Spain, France, and of course Germany. What have been the effects people have to deal with? There was a little bit of price increases, but the main of the price increases are related to logistic and transport, especially freight prices in the air logistics, because there are not any passenger planes going to China, so the prices rises. This was mainly an Asian challenge. Delayed deliveries still before delivery failure. We have personal issues, short time work also in Germany and other areas of the European Union. At the moment, most of the procurers watch carefully the financial situation of their suppliers and of course their own liquidity. So liquidity is also a thing they have to deal in Germany. The problem was that the different shutdown regulations. So we will hope that if there is another crisis in the future, we have the chance that the European Union act more as a union, and not because closed borders are not helpful for nobody. The major problems in the countries was not Central Eastern Europe. It was Southern Europe and France, so Spain and Italy. Central Eastern Europe was not such a big problem, the people told us. Some things I already know. For the next time or also next months, the synchronization of the value and supply chain is the biggest challenge. Especially if you see all these outcomes of the survey, you recognize that of course there is still optimistic. You have to see that it is an overall survey and not automotive related. In the automotive industry, the situation is definitely completely different because of the lockdown of the OEMs, and which stresses the supply chain extremely. And so the synchronization of the supply chain in the future will be the biggest challenge for the procurement and the supply chain people, because you have to start with the whole chain, but the chain is not starting on 100%, maybe on between 15 and 13%, but this is a challenge for all the people who are in this supply chain. Now the German procurers start planning the startup phase. There are some good signs at the horizon that that there will be now a restart, and also you see which measures the company has taken in the last 3 months. At the beginning, the activation of the backup suppliers. This is maybe also the thing that we have in future, that the people are thinking how they can restructure their supply chains in future. There is a discussion. There is not a clear picture at the moment, on my opinion. If you can say that there are chances for Europe or not chances, there will be different, definitely chances in Europe, but on other way, if you are a global organized big company, there will be not a lot of opportunity to restructure. So what is in China will keep in China, but you will look more local for local. So this is also a chance for Europe. Reducing cost was at the very beginning of the time. Now reduced cost is on a stable level. There are also maintenance costs or facility costs which are under observation. Reduced production was of course at the beginning in the first 4 to 6 weeks. Now we come in some areas back to normal. Cut back on deliveries is not such a big deal in this small and medium-sized areas company. Ensuring of supply goods, of course, you see is not such a big deal anymore, and price increases also not. If we ask for questions for insolvencies, you see that this was the answer that in all regions the people of the procurement having see the danger of insolvencies, especially in Germany, European Union, but also in China or in France, Brazil, some in Eastern Europe, and Italy and Spain. So we take carefully, or we watch carefully this situation. We will restart a next survey round in the next week. So we will see how is the situation beginning of July. So at summary, we have no such a clear picture. Supply chain transparency is the big thing for the future in the next couple of months and years, so that the people will see what's going on in my supply chain. Reliability of the situation and the communication within the supply chain is a thing. But we also have to manage the new organization of work processes internally. As you may see, I'm sitting in the home office as my whole team also. This personal exchange is something we have to look in the future. Single source is not the answer, will be reduced in the next couple of months and years as well, because even if you have 3 suppliers, one in China, one in India, one in Italy, you can do everything right as a procurer, but you have in this crisis you could have a problem because all 3 suppliers are not able to deliver. You can have all this slides after the presentation. I look on the watch that I'm not too long. So flexibility of production will be a thing in the future. Reducing indirect cost. We have not a clear picture if you have a stock reduction or replenishment of stocks. This is 50-50. What are if the nearshoring is coming, if you're looking in the future and what's coming 2020 and what's in for you as a company if you are located in Slovenia is be prepared for the digitalization. You will see that the process of digitalization in the German or at your customer will be speed up in the area of how transparent is my supply chain, and how can I manage the risk inside of my supply chain, starting at the raw materials, going over my supplier, including the logistic processes. So if you have a risk management in your company, and if you could be transparent in your processes, then you have a definitely better argument to get new customers or to stabilize your business relationship to your customers. There will be also new business ecosystems, and the other thing is be prepared and invest in qualified people so that you can manage the coming up processes. Then, because as you see, these are not my sources, these are sources of the German automotive industry. There is a huge going down. I will take, because the e-mobility on the lower right side will change also supply chains and the supplier structure of the automotive industry in the future. And as you see, there's a huge cut down, but maybe the most of you who are related to automotive will still know that the situation is heavy and a new challenge for the German automotive industry. And this was a little bit the situation. So if I will summarize, we will have more digitalization. So if you can digitize your own company, it's really a good investment in the future. Be prepared for more transparency actions of your customers. So as more you have a transparency in your own supply chains, as better you can serve the questions. Qualified people are the things, of course, and we will have new processes in the future. At the moment, to give you two answers, which the curious gave us. So we asked them for what's going on in the next couple of months, and most of them say now it's time for action. Strategic planning's coming a little bit later. Now I think beginning of July the companies restart their strategic plannings and the lessons learned out of the crisis. And this is a good time because as I mentioned at the beginning, since 2015, we are organizing the Western Balkan Purchasing Initiative together with the German government and the German Chamber Network under the leadership of the chamber in Serbia, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina for the Western Balkans. In last year, we met in Dortmund. This year, it will be digital. Last year, we have more than 700 organized B2Bs, more than 1,000 ad hoc meetings. This year, the actual status, I look at the figures, we have definitely 23 German companies agreed to participate in the B2B meetings, which will held from the 8th of September in the online version. So the kickoff of the purchase initiative will be the 8th of September in the digital formats. All these companies who are in the process will be informed early enough. And we hope that we have at least more than 30 German companies participating with their concrete demands in that area. And I'm very happy that we also can manage this this best practice event, you can say, in Germany, also for the future. Also thank you for all the companies and our partners like Serbian Chamber with Martin Knapp and his team, but also Ms. Rolsch and her team supporting us or working together with us. They are not supporting us. They are very integrated partner in this, let's say, best practice B2B network meeting all over Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olaf Holzgrefe. Really, it's a great pleasure to be part of this wonderful initiative. And of course, dear ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, I haven't seen any question yet. You will definitely receive this presentation also via email afterwards. We will end this webinar. The webinar is also recording, so you can also let's say check or share the webinar also afterwards. Now, maybe I would like to ask again, Mr. Minovski, if you can just turn off your camera. So now we are starting, thank you very much. Now we are starting the discussion. So the second part of the webinar, dear ladies and gentlemen, whether you don't have a question now, you are kindly invited. There is a question. Could you say something about the specific countries? Mr. Minovski is asking a question. About the specific countries. Mr. Minovski, Mr. Heidecker, sorry. Mr. Heidecker is asking, could you say something about specific countries? What actually maybe would you like to hear, or what in particular you are interested? How is the situation with Corona in Serbia, Ukraine, Slovenia? Okay, maybe this is a question for Mr. Knapp. Before we start the discussion, maybe Mr. Knapp, you can just share with us very short updates according to Corona situation in Serbia.
Corona situation in Serbia is, I would say, quite similar to Germany. There are certain hotspots still active, but here in Belgrade, you do not understand very much things about Corona. Special hospitals already stopped working as special hospitals and returned to normal function again. And generally spoken, if we take criterion like death cases, 1 million inhabitants, Serbia so far has managed it quite well. There are about 30, I think 30 cases for 1 million inhabitants, and it's, I think, 3 times less than in Germany. And used to say that Germany was quite lucky in this case compared to France or to Italy. So these are the dimensions, and in the other Western Balkan countries, it's quite similar. There is an increase in, especially in Northern Macedonia, during the last couple of weeks, and people are a little bit concerned about this. But generally spoken, we can say that the Western Balkan so far achieved to manage the situation quite well.
Mr. Knapp, thank you so much, and also to you, Mr. Olaf, for your comment on the chat. So I'm happy to announce the start of our roundtable discussion entitled Deglobalization Trends in the Pandemic, Challenges and Opportunities that Arise in the Area of Regional Supply Chains. And the guests, Mr. Knapp, AHK Serbian, Ms. Rantzen, AHK Slovenian, and Mr. Holzgrefe, BME. So let's start. My first question would be, let's say, kind of a smooth landing question. The pandemic adds momentum to the deglobalization trend since the coronavirus has been reinventing the EU supply chain. So, dear guests, can you share your thoughts how the reinvention has been perceived based on your experience so far? Tell us from any perspective you want, or that you find the perspective relevant or most important. Maybe Mr. Knapp, we can just continue with you, as you have also done such a nice introduction.
Okay, yes, so can be seen now, I think, yes. Yes, I do this job or similar jobs for 32 years now, and visiting companies, manufacturers, is part of my job. And you see, especially in Germany, people show you their parts, and during the last decades, they always were proud to say there are no stocks, we have everything just in time and just in sequence, and here are parts from 150 different directions coming just in time here, and everything is fine. And I had always a feeling, I was always a little bit, there's a mixed feeling, yes, maybe that this is a little bit sensitive, this system. I was thinking about wars and revolutions or riots or whatever. I was never imagining that such a tiny virus could have such a heavy impact on this system. And it's a system where everybody, almost in the industrialized world, everybody makes his living of this system. And so we have now to rethink everything. And this is, I think, an very interesting point. It's a challenge. We will see what will happen, and I will come back to this a little bit later when we'll discuss the opportunities we have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Mr. Knapp. Ms. Rantzen?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I made during this crisis some different experiences, and as my colleague Martin already said, of course it's our job. I'm 31 years in this network, so a little bit less than him, and of course this is part of our job to go into the companies, to talk to the companies, and to get a lot of information. I can say from my experience here in Slovenia, of course the automotive industry was strongly hit, as they are depending quite a lot on the German market, and other industries, they were, yeah, you can say we have winners and we have companies who are losing on the market. What we felt during the crisis, or during this COVID crisis, was there was a new demand coming from Germany, from different products, due to the fact, and we saw it on the experience with BMA, that there was supply chains that were broken down, and they were already looking for new companies to support their own production. But what was still important is, of course, the price, also the question of digitization, and what we also felt that there is now already a small change. We will come later to that more into deep. That there is not only in the direct supply chain, but also more going into a triangle. And we could see also from the German perspective some kind of trend of the dual strategy. So this is my personal experience so far.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rantzen. Finally, Mr. Holzgrefe, thank you very much also for your feedback on the chat.
Yeah, what I want to say is, first of all, official opinion of the BME, and then a personal opinion. But I want to put the personal opinion at the beginning. I think the crisis shows, and this is my personal opinion, how important European Union is. Because if you make the survey and you ask the people regarding their actual main problems, a lot of people say, okay, they want to have maybe a backup supplier they already know, but they have been not allowed to travel. And if you cannot see somebody or visit somebody, then it's then you can know then you have a problem to install a new process. So we see that how important open borders are, how important it is to working together. And as Ms. Rantzen said, I only can say yes, because there will be a new strategy or a different strategy depending on the industry and the demand of the companies. I think a lot of small, medium-sized enterprise now after this crisis will look very deeply if it's needed to have small demands placed in China. Yeah, it will be not such a big problem at the OEMs, because there are not many suppliers worldwide which can serve the worldwide car industry like Renault or the German car makers all around the globe. But the small demands is you will have maybe another strategy, and that's a chance for Central Eastern Europe, and that's a chance for Europe to maybe that there will be comeback the demands from other areas in the world. But the major thing is how you see how sensitive the things are, and the next thing is how I could point finger on is that if you are a supplier, if I am a company, I must have the full transparency of the situation of my goods inside of the supply chain from the beginning on until to my stocks. And this is a development which we start right now, and it's not linked to Industry 4.0. It's just talking about minimize risks and get more to transparency to even react faster.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Mr. Holzgrefe. We have the questions, but at the end of this discussion, we will go also through your question, dear participants. So you are really encouraged to asking the questions, and afterwards we will come back to you. So now I would like to continue with the second question for you, dear guests. Businesses' perspectives as well as consumer behavior has changed over the last couple of years, and intensively, as already mentioned, over the last couple of months. So where do you see the biggest challenges in the area of regional supply chains? Can you be more precise and tell us also an example from the certain industries? So concrete, the biggest challenges in the area of regional supply chains. maybe Mr. Holzgrefe, we can just continue with you.
The biggest challenges are, so we can take away logistics in Europe, because I think logistics are running, and also the European Union work very hard to keep the borders open. So the biggest challenge at the moment is to get a real picture of the situation in Germany and in Europe regarding, for example, insolvencies and the financial situation of the supplier. I will not talk about Slovenia or Serbia. I will talk about Italy, for example. We have a huge lockdown in Italy. We have especially small and medium-sized enterprises which have heavily problems if they are not, as Ms. Rantzen say, systemical suppliers. You need to restart your business. And everybody in Germany, for example, is looking to the United States. What is the situation over there? Because it's one of the biggest markets. It's not a procurement market, it's a sales market. And we think about, so the biggest challenge is to restart the whole system. And the challenge is, I think, at the moment, personally, you don't know 100% how the restart will really go. As Ms. Rantzen mentioned out before, and you can read it in the newspapers, everybody was happy that the companies the automotive companies, the OEMs, restart their production. But you also know that Wolfsburg, as one of the largest factories of cars in the world, is not working on 100%. So, and if you don't know what's happening today, and it's the same as for industries and small, medium-sized enterprises, the same question as for a small barkeeper here in the area of Mannheim where I live. The regulations you cannot plan, and therefore the forecast is very tough, I think, in the next couple of months.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rantzen.
Yes, thank you. I can only add what Mr. Holzgrefe said, because it is where are the biggest challenges in the regional supply chains. When we go back to the crisis we had 2008, 2009, we could see already a trend of this nearshoring, and especially our countries here and also middle, central, east countries. They could take a lot of new jobs and new activities in that one. Today it is a little bit different. Mr. Holder said it is how we will. Oh, it was easy to lock down, yeah, and how we come back now, and it depends on. First of all, how the single countries are doing it, yeah, because we are very, very close connected, especially in the European Union and in Europe. Yeah, we are very close connected, and it takes for sure a while. And it is also, we will not go back to the business as it has been before. We have trends already before that. One trend, if you say Industry 4.0, or if you say digitization, this will be more and more important also in the supply chain. The cooperation between our countries, when we talk about our region, it is already, when I see Slovenia, on the one hand, they have their production here in Slovenia, but they have a very strong cooperation, especially with Serbia and with North Macedonia. Yeah, so, and also a little bit with Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I see there may be a chance for our region here, yeah, to cooperate stronger in the future and to offer the procurers in Germany as a strong partner, and not only on the smaller single products. It will be, let's say, the whole components. It will be, let's say, the whole offer. What is also a challenge will be also then this with the logistic, because the logistic plays a very important role in the whole supply chain management. And I say they could be strengthened, and I hope for Slovenia that we can get a logistic hub to be a logistic hub here in Slovenia, yeah, for the region, and to be, let's say, a point between Asia and Europe.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rantzen. Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
Yes, Tina, you mentioned the behavior of the consumers, and I think this is the real starting point of everything. If you take, for instance, the car industry, people are now afraid to use the buses and trains because of the virus, but so you could expect that the demand for cars would rise, but it's not the case, because people are afraid that they may lose their job, and so they are not going to buy a new car. So I think the demand, the final demand, the demand which is expressed by the consumer, is a very, very decisive factor. Then we have also the labor market in Western Europe. We have now, day before yesterday, I spoke with a company which usually when they were announcing vacancies, they did not get any applications. Now they had 15 vacancies and they get 150 applications. So especially from people which used to work in the automotive sector. So that we have a change also in the labor market in Western Europe. And maybe that part of the demand of supply from the Balkans, for instance, which was driven by the lack of skilled workforce, maybe that this part of the demand will not play such an important role in the near future as it used to be previously. Yes, so you see a lot of factors we do not know. On the other hand, we have the migration from our countries here in the Balkans to Western Europe. The migration now has stopped. We do not know whether it will resume or not after the crisis. So it is, and this has again to do with the, it has an impact on the supply of capacities here in the countries, because a lot of suppliers used to have had a lot of orders and a few months ago, and they were, for instance, not interested to take part in our initiative. Now they are interested again. So everything is changing, and it's very, very early to come to any conclusions now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Knapp. Yeah, please.
May I add one thing? If Ms. Rantzen talk about supply chain and Mr. Knapp talking about the consumer, I want to add one thing, which is also, I think, very important, because we have to see that the European Union do something to restart the motor once more. What I want to say like this is because I can talk as a father. As a father, my kids now are locked down since 8 months, and I know now definitely every single online system to make video conferences, because in the school of and whatever I just recovered now, I think 10. So, but what you also see is that if the IT systems are not working, they have the infrastructure in Europe, especially in Germany, they have to invest, because these are also questions how we can restart the motor if we have, by the way, in all the other actions, maybe in automotive industry as well. Now the focus is on e-mobility. Now we are talking about Wasserstoff, H2 motors, whatever. So there are a lot of developments. The most important thing, if we're talking about customer, now we are supply chain and I'm a procurer, is to be close at your customer, and now in Germany to see what are the developments in there. And I think there will be a more flexibilization, not only by production, also maybe by products, but by the companies, to be more prepared for maybe another crisis coming in the future. And this needs also no flexible suppliers. And so the flexibilization maybe will become, and as more flexible and qualified, as more qualified people you have, as more flexible you are in the production to serve, your the needs of your customers. The restaurants who are able to change from based food presentation to takeaway or delivery, they still live. If you don't have a car as a restaurant owner and you cannot deliver, you have a problem because the people cannot come. So I think flexibilization in the supply chain will be also not only in restaurants, in all the industry will be a thing, especially for the small, medium-sized enterprises.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holzgrefe. Yeah, as you mentioned, actually, Germany's national hydrogen strategy. So hydrogen technologies in Germany are now really rising, and as we already heard, this is the trend toward the strengthen the sustainability technologies and sustainability also in Germany. And Mr. Holzgrefe, you mentioned while presenting the Western Balkan initiative. So Western Balkan countries are very important business partners for the German companies. For sure, the globalization is an opportunity for them in the sense of so-called nearshoring. It was already mentioned by Ms. Rantzen before.
I think the answer I gave in the presentation. If we started, if I look back in 2015 when Mr. Knapp, my person and the German ministry, or not in 2014, sit together and think that this is the best way of making building bridges between companies, is helping the companies directly and not putting money into a system. And the people and the companies need a direct support. And the best support is if a company have a customer. So they can work, they can invest, they can hire people. When we start, it was we starting small, and it was rising until last year in Frankfurt, or last year before that in Frankfurt, or now in Dortmund. And when we talked about making it online, I never expect that we have 30 plus or 30 companies in an online B2B mission we will have in September. This shows that the companies are still looking for the area near to Germany. You are the companies in Serbia, in Slovenia, in Croatia, and all the Western Balkans make a really good job in the last couple of years. We see it in our initiative that the quality rises, the preparation for the market rises, the area of logistics, they become more better and better. And then as better they the region in all work together and becomes as more interesting they are, not only for Germany, it's also for the other European markets, because it's in development, and there will be the question will be that they have no presence, the German companies. They need a reliable partner, best price, because if you are comparable, and if you can compete with the global supply, with the global competitors, then you are the partner. If you are too expensive, you are out. If your quality is too bad, you are out. If you can provide a good logistic, you are out. But if you know the situation of the Western Balkan initiative was that both learn together and grow together. And this is, I think, the way how we can also restart the nearshoring, making us better, that on the German side as well as on the supplier side. It doesn't matter where the supplier is, if it's in Slovenia or if he is in Germany. Maybe one thing, the biggest supply market for German companies is still Germany. So, and even this is a challenge over there. So this is a competition. So Europe, we have to make us better.
Yeah, Mr. Holzgrefe, thank you. You already actually also answered my next question. So what are those changes now on the company side that Western Balkan business needs to understand better? and its impact on global supply chain from the perspective of doing business with the German companies. Maybe now, Ms. Rantzen, I would appreciate your comment from the EU perspective, and then later Mr. Knapp outside the EU perspective.
Yeah. Yes, okay, thank you. Mr. Holzgrefe said nearly everything, so thank you. Yeah, but I would highlight once again, there will be not a huge change in the business behavior between the Western Balkans and Germany, because the Germans are still the Germans. Yeah. So what do they like? We call it Pünktlichkeit, or in English, just in time. A very strong focus on quality. Yeah, so this is really important, and this competitive price. We have always quite a lot of questions regarding Slovene exporters to Germany, and they said this is a very competitive market. So how can you become more competitive? Of course, investment in human capital, but also investment in the infrastructure, in the digitization. Slovenia is in comparison to Germany, and I can say it as a German, is pretty much more advanced in this digitization process, So, even if you go to Bavaria, where they say this is the Silicon Valley of Germany, we have a problem in Germany with the IT infrastructure, So, and this is very important, So to have it. The region here, our region has really the advantage to be close by. Of course, what would be needed, this is not what we can decide. I think we have to work on that. Also, the Western Balkans shall become an EU member, because as long as we have the borders, and we saw it now, during this COVID-19 crisis, what borders means in business, So, and it means that you are losing a lot of time. You don't know when the products are coming, and I think this is very, very important to boost this region, also for this so-called nearshoring in the future. This is then more a political topic. This is maybe we can work from the EU countries can work on that one in the next time, because I think this is very important. If the whole region wants to become stronger as a supplier for Germany. That's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rantzen. Mr. Knapp, what about the outside EU perspective?
This perspective from outside the EU is not so different as one would expect, because the differences are mainly in the labor costs. The countries which are not yet members of the EU are still cheaper in terms of labor costs. That's a fact. On the other hand, the infrastructure is not so good as in the EU country. It's a little bit far away compared to Slovenia, for instance. This is in terms of logistics. You have to cross the outside border of the EU, which is a little bit. It takes time. So there are advantages and disadvantages as always, and but all the other things Gertrud already mentioned are quite similar. Serbia is much more digitalized, currently digitalizing thousands of classrooms in schools. And informatics are even in the grammar school. Every Serbian young boy or young girl, and the differences are becoming less and less. And companies come to us, and usually, if they want to invest in their own production capacities, they have a list of countries, and this list of countries they're interested in usually includes EU countries and non-EU countries. This shows that they are not so much focused on the matter whether a country is in the EU or not. Usually these lists include, let's say, Romania or even Poland or Serbia and Macedonia, and so they are mixed. And the question whether a country is already a member of EU or not is not the very first criterion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you very much, Mr. Knapp. So let's conclude with my last question, and then we go to the audience. We already have a few. So enhancing sustainability in the automotive supply chain is a key concern for automotive players. It has already been mentioned, importance of price and quality, let's say, mix. A number of German vehicle manufacturers cooperate in working to improve the performance of their supply chains in this respect. What is the key factor in this respect for the suppliers from the Western Balkan countries? Maybe Mr. Olaf Holzgrefe, to start with you.
Even as an association, we start to have a sustainability seal or certification now regarding the procurement. And sustainability, of course, will be sustainability is one word with a lot of different kinds of vocabularies. We're talking about in European Union, we're calling about the Green Deal. Sustainability in other areas is also treat your labor force right. Whenever you talk, whenever we talk about sustainability, as earlier you step into the process to be sustainable, as better you are and be prepared for the future. But it's not only something you say, okay, now I'm sustainable and put it on your shoulder and work like you worked before. Now, if you have to think about sustainable. If you could be sustainable, then do it, because it could be a marketing argument to get into the contact if you are sustainable, not only talking about sustainability. And I think this is a development which will come in the future in the automotive industry. We're talking about e-mobility, which is sustainable for the customers. So you have to be sustainable as an OEM as well. And you see that the change of the climate discussion in Germany is a very big discussion. Sustainability will be a thing for future, because energy will become more expensive. As less energy you use now, as cheaper you can produce tomorrow. And then this is not a sustainable question, then it is a business question. Because if you reduce energy, then you could be cheaper. And if you are cheaper, you are more competitive. And then suddenly you are not sustainable, you are more competitive because you are sustainable. And this is a question we have to follow in the future. There are a lot of initiatives also, and other associations are running. I think also and it's not only an automotive thing, it's also in the machinery building. You're talking about sustainability as well, and in the consumer goods and the logistics. Wherever you could step into this discussion and create your own processes to be more sustainable, you could be better prepared for the future. So this one, short.
So sustainability is a future-oriented strategy. Frau Rantzen.
It's one of. Don't
yeah,
forget,
one
it's one of, like digitization, as Rantzen said.
Yeah.
Yes, what shall I add? You took the buzzword sustainability, yeah. So yes, I would agree on that one completely. Yeah, so this will be the new trend, to go really in more sustainability. But nevertheless, it will still stay also the productivity, productivity and the labor cost. This is in our region, in comparison to Germany, still very attractive. So that was from
Thank you very much, Mr. Knapp. We are looking forward to hear also your concluding words on this last question.
We're talking now about the automotive, the perspectives of automotive sector, or about the sustainability?
Yes, actually sustainability, and what is the key factor in this respect for the suppliers from the Western Balkan countries?
Yes, sustainability leads also to questions like energy and the energy mix and these climate protection stuff and all these. We have the Green Deal, and the Green Deal will have some taxes for everything which will enter the EU. Maybe these taxes very probably will be related to the energy mix of the country of origin. This is something which the governments have to take into account, because several countries have still a problematic energy mix in terms of climate protection, and this will be a problem, and we are not sure that the governments are totally aware of the dimension of this problem. And we try to show this to the Serbian government that they have to take action in this direction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear guests. We officially, let's say, ended this fruitful, really, I believe, very informative discussion. I would like just to come back to our participants. They have some questions. If we stay in the field of automotive industry, Mr. Rožić is asking, what is the situation with the automotive industry? Can suppliers from Central Eastern Europe expect more jobs in near future, or crisis will go to the next year?
May I continue?
Please.
Whether the crisis will go to the next year will have to do with whether there will be a second wave of infections or not. I think this is very important. Or second or third wave, we'll see. And we can also say, even before the crisis, there was a problem, especially these companies who are producing parts for the traditional engines, because they can, yes, you see now that the German government did not support the sales of traditional cars, but only of electric cars. This will have an impact to the exactly to these companies which are dealing with parts for traditional cars. For the others, I think I'm much more optimistic now, and I think even the number of these companies will still grow. We have some requests now from new companies coming to our countries to see what's going on, whether they can invest in our countries, and I'm quite optimistic for this part of the industry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Mr. Knapp. Thank you. So the next question is from Mr. Stoyanovsky. He is actually asking, how do you see the stimulus package that was approved by the German government recently, intended to help of the German economy? Do you see an opportunity with this to be boosted the situation in the automotive industry and supply chains as well? So does this helping the whole situation?
Was the question to me or to Ms. Rantzen?
Anybody, to the guest.
I can, maybe we can share this question, Mr.
Yes.
Holzgrefe. Okay, I see it more from the outside perspective. This is a huge package, yeah. So, and we have different aspects, and of course, Germany is concentrating forces to boost the economy again. And especially on the automotive industry, of course, it was already said from Martin Knapp, that they only put it the force on the electrical e-mobility, which is, when we talk about the sustainability, the right move. But nevertheless, I think one of the most important part of the German package is not only the short time work, so because this is very, very important for the industry, because this is a scheme we have already since years, and this was helping Germany always to come quite good out of the crisis. And the second one is the reduce of the VAT, because the VAT is also to enhance more the consumer demand, and this can be also then by the traditional cars, so helping. Of course, we have to wait how it is working. I'm not pessimistic. Let's say I'm more realistic. It will take its time. By the end of the day, I'm as a consumer, I'm not deciding to buy a new car or a new washing machine or whatever if I have the fear that I'm going to lose my job. So I think this is the most important. Can we maintain the jobs in Germany? And this we have to see till end of the year how it will be, then the effect of this package.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rantzen.
This time, Ms. Rantzen, you say all the things, but I want to add one thing. It's also the one thing is what a government can do to boost the industry, and the other thing is if the boost find the way to the customers. What I mean about this is now the government want to support or supports electromobility, but did the customer want to have electromobility in this size that they have normal cars? Is a question I cannot answer, because there are still e-cars in the German market, but they are not such attractive as I see the numbers of sales that they are, because they are. It's not only the challenge to have a car which moves electric; you have to charge a car as well. So there are a lot of other things. So in the automotive industry, and if you boost the industry, it depends if the people use it. I make a very easy example. You can open a restaurant after the lockdown, but if nobody goes into the restaurants to eat, then the opening of a restaurant don't help the owner. He needs to have customer. So we have that. That's why I think the VAT reduction is as a stimulus of the whole industry, not the automotive industry, is helpful for everybody, because it brings trust into the system. I think also supply chain. And now I come back from the industrial vision to the typical supply chain. As more you trust your supplier, as more you are willing to keep him as long as possible as a long-term partner. As less you trust him before the crisis, as less you are willing to keep him as a partner if you don't need him anymore. So trust, transparency, and communication is a very, very important thing. And this is the same of countries. Our leaders have to communicate with the people that they get back trust, that the growing and the industry is going back to normal. As more the people trust these wordings, as more it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. In automotive industry, as the same as other industries, and supply chain are working with this motor. So this is also what I want to give to the Western Balkan and Slovenian suppliers or companies. As closer you are to your customer and stay in the close contact and be reliable and transparent in the communication and a reliable partner in the past, I think the chance that you will stay a reliable partner in the future is much more higher. Instead, you have not such a close communication in before. This is, I think, and this is also a question of digitization, for example, because then you can maybe in one part get closer to your customer, have more information about the situation, and then you have more time to maybe closer on this personal level to get this future strategies done or whatever.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rantzen and Mr. Holzgrefe. We will just conclude with the very last question from the participants on the topic custom duties. So Mr. Mizo is asking, what about the non-aligned custom duties in the Western Balkan countries with the EU rates for suppliers coming especially from Asia and United States? So this makes the region less competitive to the European Union location, especially for capital-intensive companies with low labor content, is saying Mr. Mizo. Maybe any comments to that?
I can say a few words because I already said it. That's very important that we get the Western Balkans also as a part of the EU. But these problems we also challenging in EU countries. Yeah. So when you have the third coming from different countries from Asia or from US. And then it comes into Slovenia and it goes into Germany. This is also very, very complicated, but it is correct. This could be a problem or a challenge for those companies who are not so strong on the labor force, but who are more on let's say on high tech investments and productions. And but this we only can change when this country will be a part of the EU.
So I think this is actually we come to the conclusion to this webinar. I really thank you very much, all dear guests, so that you prolong a little bit. So it's already past 11. And so I would like to really conclude this wonderful webinar. Thank you very much for the cooperation, dear Mr. Knapp, Mr. Holzgrefe, and Ms. Rantzen, and also to you, dear participants, for your questions and for being with us today. Warmest regards to all. As said, this is the last webinar of the Deutschlandforum 2020 series organized by the German-Slovene Chamber of Commerce and the Industry, AHK Slovenian, in cooperation with the SPIRIT Slovenia public agency. The next webinar series our chamber will organize in autumn. But before, I'm wishing you all a great summer. Although we are a bit limited, do not limit by having a great time. So thank you again to all of you. Best wishes and hope to seeing you in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.